offering obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Siddharane. Today I'm going to read from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, Sankhya Yoga, text number 27. Prasanta manasam yenam yoginam sukham uttamam upayati shanta rajasam brahmabhutam akamasham. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes qualitative identity with the Supreme. Thus, he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Brahmabhuta is the state of being freed from material contamination and situated in the transcendental service to the Lord. Mad Bhaktim Lavate Param. Bhagavad Gita 18:54. One cannot remain in the quality of Brahman, the Absolute, till one's mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. Savayamana Krishna Padara Vindayo. We always engage in the transcendent loving service of the Lord, or to remain in Krishna consciousness is to be factually liberated from the mode of passion and all material contamination. So the verse again. Prasantam manasam yenam yoginam sukhamutamam upayati shanta rajasam brahmabhutam kalmasham. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme. Thus, he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. Oma Gyanantimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita tells us the same philosophy. How, as it says in the Padma Purana, Smartavyak Sadatam Vishnur, Vismartat Chatina Kinchit, Sarva Vidhi Nisedyasyor, Etiyor Eva Kinkara. That Smartavyak means to remember Krishna. Because remembering Krishna means to directly associate with him. Even the demons, such as Kamsa, when they were remembering Krishna, they were also associating with Krishna, but not in the proper consciousness. And therefore, their association, although it did bring about their liberation, did not actually give them the best result, which would be love of God. Still, those who are aspiring to become devotees, one of our objectives is to become conscious of Krishna. That consciousness of Krishna means to remember Krishna. Just like the gopis in Vrindavan, as that favorite passage I sometimes cite, that the gopis of Vrindavan were so attached to Krishna that they were not satisfied simply with the rasa dance at night. They wanted to associate with him and enjoy his company during the daytime also. When Krishna went into the forest with his cowherd boys and the calves, the gopis could not physically take part, but their hearts went with him. And because their hearts went with him, they were able to enjoy his company through strong feelings of separation. To acquire this strong feeling of separation is the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and his direct associates, the Goswamis. When we're not physically in contact with Krishna, we can also associate with him through strong feelings of separation. Krishna's transcendental name, his form, his quality, his pastimes are all identical with him. There are 9 different kinds of devotional service, and devotional service and feelings.
Maharaj, I apologize. I apologize for interrupting. Sincerely, please remember that you are being translated simultaneously. Please slow down. Hare Krishna,
Okay.
sorry.
What are we up to?
Up to the last sentence.
To acquire this, we'll go back a little bit. To acquire this strong feeling of separation is the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and his direct disciple succession of Goswamis. When we're in physical contact with Krishna, we can also associate with him through strong feelings of separation. Krishna's transcendental name, his form, his quality, and his pastimes are all identical with him. There are 9 different kinds of devotional service, and devotional service and feelings of separation elevates the devotee to the highest devotional level, to the level of the gopis. As stated in the prayers of the 6 Srinivasa Acharya's prayers to the 6 Goswamis, they gave up their material opulence and princely status of life and went to Vrindavan, where they lived like ordinary mendicants begging from door to door. But they were so much enriched with the gopis' feelings of separation that they enjoyed transcendental pleasure at every moment. Similarly, when Lord Chaitanya was at Jagannath Puri, he was in the role of Srimati Radharani, feeling separation from Krishna. Those who are in the Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya should also feel separation from Krishna. The spiritual master should elevate the disciples to the highest level of Krishna consciousness by constantly chanting Hare Krishna and remembering the Krishna's pastimes. Everyone can be completely...
Maharaj, I am so sorry. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm trying my best, but this is way too fast, way too rapid, way too much philosophy. I'm so sorry. Could you please a little bit slow down for me again? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes, when I'm reciting something from memory, it goes quicker. We'll slow down a little bit. The spiritual masters should elevate the devotees to the highest perfectional level, feeling constant separation from Krishna while engaging in Krishna's service is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. In other words, it doesn't really matter exactly what service we're doing. What matters is the fact that we're doing some authorized service to please Krishna. Obviously, the Goswamis in Vrindavan, from the material point of view, they were not in a very opulent position. After all, they were homeless. They were penniless. Practically speaking, they had no one to support them. They were living on simply some dry chapati every day. Even the present homeless people around the world would be considered to be in a better position than they are. Still, we worship the Goswamis. We even read their literature. Because most of us are not aspiring to become homeless, unless you're a sannyasi. Most of us are trying to become conscious of Krishna. And not only that, but these homeless personalities who had no bank account, had no relatives supporting them. Practically speaking, some of them were living underneath a tree. We put them on our altars and we worship them. So most people would consider that we're mentally unstable, worshiping homeless people. But we're not worshiping them because they're homeless. We're worshiping them because they were on the highest level of consciousness. The consciousness that any sincere devotee is actually aspiring to obtain. That is constant remembrance of Krishna. Now, in the 6th chapter, Krishna has gone through a mechanical process by which one can fix the mind upon Krishna. As most of us have noticed, that mechanical processes just don't work very easily. Because the current atmosphere is such, is that our brains are just filled with all kinds of anxieties, trying to maintain what we have, and perhaps even trying to get something better. Therefore, if we sit down in a secluded place and try and think about Krishna, we'll probably think about whether I turned off the lights before I came here. So it's not recommended that we follow the path of the 6th chapter, but the result is the same result that we're trying to obtain, that the yogis previously were able to obtain because they lived in an atmosphere which is relatively quite simple. As we remember that Brahmana who was penniless, and he heard during one saptaha, or at least he attended one conference where one of the Brahmins was explaining that one could also worship Krishna through the process of meditation. So every day, he'd sit down by the Ganges, do achman and pranayama, because Prabhupada said previously, even ordinary people knew how to do pranayama to pacify the mind. And then he'd sit in meditation. And in his meditation doesn't mean to think of nothing, but his meditation meant that he was thinking of installing deities on an altar. And when he installed the deities on the altar, he collected water in golden and silver pots from sacred rivers, such as the Ganges, the Jamuna, Saraswati, Kaveri, Narmada. And he brought those waters to the deities that he put in his mind and bathed them with those waters. Then he dressed those deities, he performed arti to them, and he cooked for them and made an offering to them. So he did this for many, many years. And one day he was cooking sweet rice, but anyone who's been in India knows that you don't take sweet rice when it's hot. It's not very healthy. So he put his finger in, he touched the pot, because he didn't put his finger in the pot. He touched the pot to see if the sweet rice was cool enough to offer to his deity. But in his meditation, when he put his finger on the pot, his finger was burnt. And that broke his meditation. And he looked at his finger when he awoken from his meditation, and he saw that his finger had actually gotten burnt. In Vaikuntha, Lord Narayan started to laugh. And all the Lakshmis surrounding Narayan were wondering, why is Lord Narayan laughing? And then Lord Narayan asked for a Vaikuntha airplane to come and pick up the Brahmin. And the airplane came, picked up picked up the Brahmana, and the airplane came, picked the Brahmin up, and brought him to Vaikuntha, where the Brahmin related his story before all the Lakshmis and Lord Narayan. So this shows us that although we don't perhaps understand, but things that are offered in meditation to Krishna are also accepted in worship. Of course, for most of us, it's hard enough to just chant japa without falling asleep. What to speak of sitting there and trying to meditate? I heard some devotees, they chant 64 rounds in an hour within their mind. Something like that. Not recommended. Better to chant 16 rounds out loud in 2 hours and 64 rounds in an hour within the mind. In any case, thinking of Krishna is our goal. How we do it, that depends upon what level of mental control we have. Mental control doesn't mean mechanical control. It means how much the mind spontaneously remembers Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, in every chapter, Krishna gives a different recommendation of how we can remember Krishna. But generally speaking, the only recommendation he's actually giving to Arjuna, the one he's emphasizing the most, are the recommendations in the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. And probably the first recommendation he gives is that one should try to see Krishna within this material world. If we can't think of Krishna in this material world, our thinking about Krishna in the spiritual world will not be very deep. If we can't see Krishna right before us, then how are we going to be able to see Krishna in the bushes of Vrindavan? So Krishna says, Rasoham apsu konteya, that I'm the taste of water. Because nowadays, one may wonder, is there any do we really believe that the taste in most of the supplies of water in cities is actually Krishna? But what Krishna is saying, he's the taste in pure water, probably mineral water, not tap water. And he's the light and the sun and the moon. After all, for instance, someone paid our electricity bill for our lifetime, we'd certainly be quite grateful to them. But Krishna has given us a free light bulb. That's the sun. We don't have to pay for it, apparently at least. We get free light and heat from the sun. And therefore one should have a sense of gratitude towards Krishna. What have we done to deserve having free light and heat? After all, since time immemorial, every conditioned soul, practically speaking, to one degree or another, has rejected Krishna. The material world is an experiment how we can be happy without Krishna, or how we can be happy by trying to take Krishna's place, by pretending that, as I often say, that we're either Radha or Krishna, or we're Romeo or Juliet, we're Tarzan or we're Jane, or we're Mickey Mouse or Minnie Mouse. Somehow or another, we're trying to take Krishna's position and be happy without Krishna. Still, Krishna is so kind that he's giving us air to breathe. He's giving us light. He's giving us heat. He's giving us water. He's giving us so many things. So either we can pretend that we're somehow or another independent of Krishna and that this world belongs to us to some degree, or we can utilize the resources that Krishna is supplying to us and utilize them in Krishna's service, specifically to perform sadhana, that is, so we can use this present body to chant Hare Krishna. We can hear about Krishna by reading the scriptures that Srila Prabhupada has given us. We can worship Krishna in the form of his deity. We can serve as devotees. And we can preach Krishna's message and try to make the atmosphere spiritual. By doing that, then we can become Krishna conscious and free from our misconceptions. Free from, as Prabhupada always says, the dirt within our minds that make us believe we're something other than a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, and that our real business is to please Krishna and not sort of subtle body and many things in relationship to these gross and subtle bodies that we've acquired. So our first business is to at least appreciate what Krishna has given us. Who else has given us so much material resources as Krishna? Freely. But because people are envious of Krishna, they create philosophies where everything came out of nothing. Now, if everything came out of nothing, why do people demand that we pay for things? Because after all, how can they own it? Because it came out of nothing. They didn't create it. Nothing created it. So if we owe any debt to anything, we owe it to nothing, which means we have no real debt. People are falsely claiming that nothing gave it to them, but actually nothing didn't do anything. People just falsely claim. Now, if we accept that everything came from Krishna, then Krishna is giving everything to everyone. And therefore, why should one falsely claim that one is the independent owner of anything? Ultimately, they've gotten it from Krishna. And Krishna, at the proper time, he also takes it away from them. Therefore, we should appreciate whatever Krishna has given us and understand what it's actually meant for. It's meant for our liberation, not for entangling us and the concept of life, an illusory concept of life, where we pretend that there is no Krishna and that we are the ultimate and only proprietors of anything that's within our influence. Then, if we utilize our resources in Krishna's service with a proper understanding of what Krishna wants us to do with these resources, basically, of course, we know that Krishna wants us to, in one sense, simplify our lives so that we don't work for unnecessary things. In any case, what is necessary is that we learn that whatever we're doing, we should be doing it for Krishna, under Krishna's directions, or the directions of his representatives. Just like Arjuna, or as Prabhupada says, the beginning, the first step of understanding is that everything is Krishna's. And therefore, Prabhupada gives the example of one counting money in a bank. If one works in a bank, he can count millions of dollars, but he doesn't claim that even one of those dollars belongs to himself. He's simply counting them. Similarly, in this material world, everything here, because it belongs to Krishna, we should not consider it belongs to ourselves, but we should, everything we touch, everything we have influence over, we should consider how to utilize it for Krishna. We should respect it as belonging to Krishna, and therefore utilize it with care and attention. That feeling of care and attention while dealing with the elements of the material existence that we're presently under is the background for developing some feelings towards Krishna. One time, Tamakrishna Maharaj took a Bhagavad Gita and he showed it to the devotees, and it was all torn, cover wasn't properly ironed, pages, some of them. And then he showed his Bhagavad Gita in perfect order. And he said, the torn one, this is Krishna's Bhagavad Gita, the one that they use in the temple. And this is my Bhagavad Gita, the one I use. In other words, when we think something belongs to Krishna, sometimes we don't take it very seriously. And we think, well, Krishna is a rich man. If I mishandle his energy, he can always get another one. His menial servant is Kubera. He's the treasurer of the demigods. If Krishna needs another Bhagavad Gita, he can ask Kubera to use his credit card and get one from Amazon, no problem. But my Bhagavad Gita, that I can afford to mishandle, because I'm not as rich as Krishna. Therefore, I take care of it very nicely, because it's mine. And everything else that belongs to Krishna, I don't take very seriously. Therefore, we find in ISKCON, as soon as the devotees buy, temple devotees buy a car, that car is in danger. Because the devotees think Krishna is a rich man. He has, this is the temple car. It's not my car, it's the temple car. Therefore, whether I'm awake when I drive the car or asleep, makes no difference. Whatever happens to the car, Krishna will take care of. So, as I said, as soon as the temple gets the car, immediately it's in danger, because the devotees will treat it as if it's a foreigner or a plaything, a play toy. But actually, it's supposed to be the opposite. If something belongs to Krishna, we're supposed to treat it with great care and attention. Because without that feeling of great care and attention, how are we going to develop feelings towards Krishna? If we're indifferent to Krishna's energies that belong to him, when we chant Hare Krishna, how are we going to feel towards the holy name? We'll think, oh, the holy name. It's supposed to be non-different from Krishna. Srimati Radharani and Krishna are appearing in the holy name so easily. So why should I take it so seriously? Anytime I need something, I just dial up the holy name and hope he sends it as quick as possible. I have a special account with the holy name. I just say Hare Krishna, and out of the sky, whatever I need falls. So because Krishna is so kind, he's appearing as the holy name. Therefore, we don't take it very seriously. I can chant it whenever I want, and I can get whatever I want. But if we take care of Krishna's energies and utilize it for his service, namely and especially so that we perform a very nice sadhana. We chant in a clean room without too much noise and distraction. Yeah, we chant in a place where it's easy to remember Krishna, like the temple room, not driving a car with a clicker, where we can neither concentrate on the road, because we're supposed to be concentrating on the holy name, but we can't concentrate on the holy name because we're supposed to be concentrating on the road. Therefore, it's practically impossible to properly chant Hare Krishna, but to speak of even pronounce the words properly, and what to speak of feeling Krishna's presence. So especially those who are initiated should understand we're not only trying to get our rounds done every day, so that this horrible vow I made, chanting 16 rounds daily, I can fulfill, so I can go to sleep peacefully, thinking that at least I chanted something called Hare Krishna. As that famous mantra, sometimes we hear, Shnik, shnik, ram, ram, day, 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 hey, kitty, kitty, hey, kitty, kitty. That's not the aim, is to just, we can't, trying to get our 16 rounds done. Is actually we're supposed to try to learn how to chant without offense. Without offense basically means that we have some care and attention in service to the devotees, care and attention while we're chanting, care and attention while we're reading Srila Prabhupada's books, care and attention while we're worshiping the deities, care and attention while we live our normal lives, that we make it as spiritual as possible, and care and attention while we're serving the devotees. If we have that care and attention, then throughout our day, whatever we're doing, then certainly when we chant Hare Krishna in the proper atmosphere, then that care and attention will be so that when we chant Hare Krishna, we'll be able to feel Krishna's presence. And if we actually feel Krishna's presence, then we'll actually spontaneously remember Krishna. Unless we have some experience when we're chanting, especially, then what is the question of being conscious of Krishna? If Krishna is not different from his name, and we chant it, and we get the same experience as if we were chanting something else, as Prabhupada said, water, 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 or voda, 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 or agua, agua, agua. What is our benefit of chanting? There'll be some benefit, but it's like trying to cook from having the fire in one place and then trying to cook from a distance, trying to cook something from having that object far from the fire. Just like one time, one rich man saw a yogi, and he bet the yogi that he couldn't spend a night in cold water. So the yogi took up the challenge, and throughout the whole night, he was up to his neck in cold water. So the next day, the yogi came to the rich man and said that the whole night I spent in the cold water. Please give me the money that you promised me. But the rich man said, no. He said, I know you cheated because there was a candle 5 miles or 5 kilometers away, and I know you were taking heat from that candle 5 miles away. So I'm not going to pay you the debt, the money that we bet. The rich man's servant was there, and he heard this, and he felt that the rich man was being unjust to the yogi. The next day, the rich man was supposed to leave to go to some business appointment, and he told his servant to cook his lunch and have it ready on time. The time was coming for his lunch, and he asked his servant, is the meal ready? And the servant said, yes, it's almost ready. Some time went by, and still the rich man asked, isn't the meal ready yet? And the servant said, yes, it's almost ready. Just has to cook a little bit more. So finally, the rich man entered into the kitchen and saw that his servant was cooking the food in a pot, but the pot was 1 meter above the fire on a stand. So the rich man said, how is this possible that you can cook this food? The flame is so far away. So the servant said, well, I heard from you that if you're a yogi, you can take heat from a candle 5 kilometers away, 5 miles away. So why can't this pot take heat from this fire, which is only 1 meter away? So then the rich man understood that he was cheating the yogi, and he paid his bet. Similarly, if we chant Hare Krishna and our consciousness is 5 kilometers away, it's very unlikely that we're going to be able to experience the presence of Krishna in the holy name. Therefore, whatever we actually value, we utilize with care and attention. Because nowadays, unfortunately, people are not taught to value anything, practically speaking. So they don't take care and attention with anyone, including their own family members. They take them for granted. And therefore, Prabhupada said family life is practically an imagination nowadays. People are not taught to understand the value of their husband or their wife or their children, what to speak of their parents or their grandparents or even their friends. They've been trained not to utilize things carefully and attentively. But devotees practical and understand that as we deal with this material world, that we don't, because this material energy is also Krishna's energy. So unless we deal with it carefully and attentively, then we won't be able to deal with Krishna carefully and attentively either. Either in the deity form, or in the holy name, or in the books, or in the association of the devotees, or in the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the distribution of Krishna consciousness to others. Therefore, although it says here about the mind being fixed on Krishna, if we try to do that and not do it for a very short period of time during the day, for instance, some man was carrying puffed rice in a plate, and he was walking down the street. and the wind took the puff rice away. And he shouted out, I'm offering this to Govinda. This is an offering to Govinda. So such an attitude, thinking about Krishna, is not really very devotional. So even we remember Krishna periodically during the day, but we won't actually get the full benefit, as if we try to understand how we should carefully deal with Krishna's energies in devotional service in order to help spread Krishna consciousness to others and to absorb ourselves in Krishna consciousness in whatever we're doing. If we put the iron in the fire, it'll get hotter and hotter and hotter, and then it'll take on the same qualities as the fire after some time. But if we put the iron in the fire and then take it out of the fire, then obviously it'll never become like fire. If we want to enter into the realm of bliss and pure consciousness of ever expanding awareness of bliss and love and devotion, then we have to keep ourselves in the fire of Krishna consciousness in the proper attitude. That whatever we do as a devotion to Krishna with care and attention to please Krishna under the directions of Krishna and his representatives. Then very quickly we can become conscious of Krishna, and very quickly the holy name will have great effect on our own experience in Krishna consciousness. There was one lady who attended a Bhagavad Saptaha. This is a real story. And during the whole Bhagavad Saptaha, she couldn't stop chanting Hare Krishna. So the man, who was quite a famous devotee, he became very disturbed. And he went up to the lady and started to criticize her to the point that she broke out in tears. Why do you keep on chanting Hare Krishna? Why don't you listen to my lecture? So she said that actually my tongue just spontaneously chants Hare Krishna. I can't stop chanting Hare Krishna. But he did not appreciate how nice a devotee this Mataji was, that due to her intense devotion towards Krishna, even without thinking about it, she was incessantly chanting Hare Krishna. Later on, this exalted personality who gave the talk about Krishna, he fell down because of offense against a great devotee. So this is the stage we have to want to come to, where Krishna, the chanting of the holy name becomes so nice that we can't stop chanting. Just like the gopis, when Krishna left Vrindavan, they were quite disturbed due to intense separation. Practically speaking, some of them wanted to give their lives up. So they were praying that somehow or another that Krishna would stop being in their remembrance, because they couldn't tolerate it anymore. They couldn't stop thinking of Krishna. So that's a very nice situation where you can't stop thinking about Krishna. If we can think about Krishna even for a few minutes, we think we're the topmost devotee. But actually the topmost devotees, they can't stop thinking about Krishna, even if they want to. As I mentioned, Brajavihari Prabhu, he once went to one of our Prabhupada's elderly godbrothers, Puri Maharaj, and Brajavihari Prabhu said, Puri Maharaj, it's me, Brajavihari. And Puri Maharaj said, I'm over 100 years old. He said, I can't remember anything anymore. The only thing I can remember is Krishna. So that's a very nice situation where you forget about everything except for Krishna. That's our perfection. Of course, we don't have to forget about everything. But if we can only think about Krishna, that's quite an amazing achievement. So I'll stop here. Thank you. Any questions?
Hare Krishna Gurudev.
Yes.
And like some people or devotees as well think that perhaps Bhagavad Gita isn't leading us to the highest stage of Bhakti Yoga. Do you think this verse is sort of an answer to that?
I think most of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita are an answer to that. What do people think is the highest perfection? Because they have a conception, they think unless they hear about Krishna with the gopis, they're missing something. Well, actually, it may be true that Krishna's relation with the gopis is considered the highest rasa. But for one who's on the ground next to the Himalayas, whether it be Mount Everest or some other mountain next to Mount Everest, it makes very little difference to the person on the ground. To think that a mountain which is a few meters lower than Mount Everest is not very significant is a miscalculation. Similarly, all the different rasas, they're all practically equal, although there's some emphasis on certain rasas because of the mood that is generated in that particular rasa. But from our point of view, they're all equally valid. They're all equally appreciated, all equally worshipped. So in Bhagavad Gita at the end, Sanjaya says he was always in ecstasy, repeatedly remembering Krishna's universal form. He was becoming ever more struck with wonder and rejoiced again and again. Now, we think that we're so elevated, we don't have to see the universal form. We don't have to remember Krishna in water. We don't have to become detached from our material conceptions of life. We just have to hear about Krishna and the gopis in Vrindavan. So this is due to a material concept of life. They're known as prakriti sahajas. Even the most obvious, simple things that we have to accomplish to become Krishna conscious, they reject. They want to jump. But this jumping is just a manifestation of their lack of proper understanding. First of all, they jump, but they won't jump into Krishna consciousness. They'll jump into a deeper conception, material conception of life. Because if one doesn't take the process of Krishna consciousness seriously and rejects the process by which one can actually become Krishna conscious, then one's attempt to jumping over the process to become Krishna conscious means they'll never become Krishna conscious. The only thing that will happen is that they'll develop some illusory conception of what Krishna consciousness is, and they'll remain outside of Krishna consciousness. Like one who gets a bottle of honey, doesn't take the trouble to enter into the bottle and simply licks the bottle from outside. And the result is they'll have to take birth after birth until they finally realize their mistake and maybe take the process that's given by Krishna seriously rather than the process that they're inventing in their fertile minds. So people are naturally envious of Krishna because that's why we've come to the material world. And certainly Krishna is enviable because he's the source of everything. Similarly, one is many times is envious not only of Krishna, but Krishna's pure representative, such as Srila Prabhupada. And therefore, they won't surrender to the simple instructions he gives. They want to make everything much more complicated, or they want to invent their own process, which is another way of making things extremely complicated. So one should be careful not to accept such conceptions, because often we see that such personalities, they're not able to maintain themselves in Krishna consciousness for very long. Just like there was one devotee, black devotee, in Mayapur. He came to Mayapur and he decided that the association of devotees was not elevating his consciousness. And he decided that it would be better if he made a tree house for himself and sat in it and chanted Hare Krishna all day long. He wouldn't come to Prabhupada's lectures. He wouldn't do any service. He simply chanted. So Prabhupada he went to see Prabhupada one day, and Prabhupada told him to stop living in the treehouse, come and do some service. But he refused to do it. Then after some time, sitting in the treehouse and chanting, he disappeared. And the next time he was seen, he was living as an ordinary person on the street. So he thought he could bypass the process given by the acharyas and invent his own process. But the result is that Srimati Radharani wouldn't allow him even to stay in the holy dham for very long. Everyone I knew who didn't follow the process wound up looking for happiness because they couldn't get it from the process, that they didn't follow it. And they wound up back in the material world looking for happiness there. Hare Krishna, Parthasarthi. Is that you, Parthasarthi?
Thank you. Sure. Sorry, I'm in the bus. You mentioned that when you are in the temple, is a nice atmosphere because everything is very conducive. Thank you. But for example, when we are at home and we have to work, and not necessarily all the things that we do are directly related with Krishna. Of course, we try to do our job in the Krishna conscious mode, but sometimes there are some situations that our activities are not directly related with Krishna consciousness. So how we meditate in Krishna when we have such experience?
Well, there's nothing not related to Krishna. The only thing not related to Krishna is our consciousness sometimes.
Okay.
So we have to figure out how to practically live this life so it actually sincerely is in relation to Krishna. Obviously, if we're working, if we have a family, some portion of our money, of our earnings should go to maintaining our family so we can have a nice, peaceful family living in Krishna consciousness. But we should also give some proportion of our earnings to the spreading Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, then our mood will not be that this money belongs to Krishna. It belongs to me or me and my wife or whatever. And that Krishna is perhaps a little deity in our house. And to Krishna, we offer him a little water. And to my family, we offer a big feast every day. So this means we don't take Krishna very seriously. And therefore Krishna reciprocates with us. But we don't take him very seriously, then he won't interfere with our mood Instead, he'll allow us to go on with that consciousness until we realize it's not giving us the highest happiness. If we're going to work in order to produce something or gain something, then that gain in some way or another should go to Krishna. Otherwise, whatever we're working for that doesn't go to Krishna, we're just working for our sense gratification. And our sense gratification means that mentality of trying to gratify the senses is just going to cover over our consciousness of Krishna. And that will not produce what we're actually at least aspiring for, to actually become happy in Krishna consciousness. As it says in the Bhagavatam, there is nothing more, we could say, there's no greater impediment to becoming Krishna conscious than to think that there's something that will make us happier than becoming Krishna conscious. Okay, anything else? Thank you for the question. Kumari Devidas.
Guru Maharaj, and
Thanks, Guru
question
Maharaj.
in chat.
Kumari Devidas at least raised her hand. So,
Yeah, just to say thank you, Guru Maharaj, and for saying that there is a question on the chat, Guru Maharaj.
okay. Let's see, chat. Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj, thank you very much for the lecture. My question, are there some practical implications that can help us improve one's japa? Cold shower before the japa, a glass of milk or something else, something besides sangha and sadhana. Well, if you're about to go to sleep, then a cold shower may help wake you up. It also may give you a cold if you're not used to it. And as far as a glass of milk, depends, you should take milk warm, should be from a cow, which is grass-fed, which is not homogenized or pasteurized. Should be taken hot. But that's not really one of the recommendations for chanting better japa. Unless you haven't eaten for a few days, and taking a glass of milk may be helpful if you're starving to death. Other than that, better just to follow regulated life. Go to sleep on time, wake up on time. Go to sleep early, wake up early, have a regulated diet, go for a walk. That will probably be more helpful than just taking a glass of milk. As far as other things, just live a regulated life, peaceful life, so that when one is chanting japa, one is not thinking of a million things, because the life is disordered. One's life is disordered, so one's mind will also be disordered. So one more question, because I have another lecture I have to go to. Was that was probably, who was that? Someone else have a question? Yes, Yana does. You're muted.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, can you tell something about thinking about Krishna in the mood of devotion instead of just some kind of mechanical thing?
No. listen to the lecture again. That's what the whole lecture was about.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Grandra Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai.
Ki Jai.
Gaur
Jai.
Premanande.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Iskcon Prahladananda Swami Maharaj ki.
Jai. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. Very nice lecture. Thank you.
Thank Guru Maharaj.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.